And now the award for Wokest Sports Take of the Week. The award goes to Jalen Rose.
Can we retire using Mount Rushmore? That should be offensive to all of us, especially Native Americans, the indigenous people, who were the first people here before Christopher Columbus. That land was stolen from them. Let's stop using the term Mount Rushmore when we're talking about our favorite rappers, talking about our favorite movies, we're talking about our favorite players.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about ESPN, which is a sports network. I guess you can call it a sports network. I mean, more than anything, it's more political than sports-oriented nowadays. It's almost like watching CNN, right? Watching ESPN. But ESPN is owned by Disney. Disney is woke. Therefore, nobody should be surprised that ESPN is woke. However, ESPN has been struggling, okay? They have been struggling. They are more relevant than they have ever been, especially after the pandemic, which happened to line up with a moment in our country where we were probably the wokest we've ever been, okay? Following George Floyd's death, ESPN, all of sports went super duper woke, and that turned off a ton of people, okay? A ton of people turned it off and said, look, we don't want our sports mixed with politics, okay? The political agenda that was being pushed by ESPN, and again, all the woke sports leagues. Now, fast forward just a few years into the future, you have ESPN issuing massive layoffs because they're trying to cut costs. And guess who they are letting go first, right? Guess who they're letting go? They're letting go of the wokest talent at the company because ultimately, at the end of the day, wokeness does not pay the bills, okay? It does not pay the bills, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, these companies are going to try to keep the lights on. They're going to try to pay the bills. So with that being said, I want to talk about this layoff because you have people like Jalen Rose, who's super woke, Jeff Van Gundy, who's a legendary ESPN basketball commentator. He's out too. Max Kellerman, who's also woke, he's gone. Keyshawn Johnson gone. Yeah, ESPN is letting go a lot of guys, and this is kind of shocking people because these are staples at this network. So let's read about it. The moves, first reported by the New York Post, Andrew Marchad, are part of the company's cost-cutting initiatives. They are the first high-profile names of what is expected to be upward of 20 on-air personalities let go as the network tries to figure out their future direction. Travis Clay says ESPN's business is tanking and they are going to be firing many of their highest-paid talents today. Jeff Van Gundy was really good on games, in my opinion. Marchand reports that Van Gundy's contract was not up. However, his salary was in the millions of dollars. Still, fans across social media were shocked by the news after becoming accustomed to hearing Van Gundy and Mike Breen as ESPN's main NBA broadcast team for 16 years. The former Knicks and Rockets head coach joined the network after the 2006-2007 season. Former Warriors head coach Mark Jackson eventually joined the ESPN broadcast booth too. According to The Athletic, Gundy only found out about ESPN's decision this morning. Yeah, I mean, they must be really going through it, right? Financially, they must be really going through it to let somebody like Jeff Van Gundy go. Yeah, I mean, that is a pretty surprising one. Now, one that I'm not surprised about is Jalen Rose, who is super woke and has had some very dumb takes, okay? So let's read about this one. This one's hilarious. Jalen Rose also going from ESPN, and perhaps a more shocking move based on the network's political leanings. Jalen Rose was also fired this morning. The NBA Countdown and former host of the failed Jalen and Jacoby show was known for such, quote, hot takes like saying Mount Rushmore is racist. This past April, Rose also insinuated that Hall of Fame coach Phil Jackson was also racist because he won championships, quote, on the backs of black athletes. Let's also not forget that time when Jalen Rose basically called for an all-black Olympic team after calling Kevin Love, who's white, a token, right? Saying that he was only on the team because of tokenism and that he wished that the team was all black, right? Which to me sounds racist.
I'm excited about the roster, and I assume and I know we're gonna win the gold. But I'm disappointed in something. As I do this show every day, I do it in front of a picture of Tommy Smith and John Carlos raising their fists at the Olympics. I also know the favoritism that Christian Laettner was shown when he got a chance to be put on the dream team ahead of Shaq and Alonzo, but they made it so that a college player could even get on and gave him favoritism. But this level of, and I got a word for it, Kevin Love is on the team because of tokenism. Don't be scared to make an all-black team representing the United States of America. I'm disappointed by that. Anybody that watched the league this year knows Kevin Love did not have a stellar season, was not the best player on his team, and did not necessarily deserve to be on this squad. And I'm not going to take him off the squad and not put somebody else on it. I'm going to tell you whose spot that should be. That should be a young man that was born in the Bahamas, that is a McDonald's All-American, played in high school and college in Phoenix, Arizona. DeAndre Ayton should have Kevin Love's spot. And I'm disappointed in Team USA for not having the courage to send an all-black team to the Olympics.
Yeah, just blatant racism on ESPN, okay? And they are wondering, why in the world do people not want to watch these shows? Why are people not tuning into these shows? It's almost as if they forget that a majority of people in this country are white, right? And you can't just alienate so many people because of their skin color and think that you're going to get people to watch your show. That's just not how it works. That's just not how it works. And ESPN and these woke employees are finding out the hard way. Jalen Rose definitely deserved to be fired, right? This guy was an on-air racist. He was openly racist on air. The layoffs come just a week after ESPN Radio canceled the Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max show. Both Keyshawn Johnson and Max Kellerman were let go today as well. Okay, so with Max Kellerman, who I like to call Marks Kellerman, no surprises here. This guy was also super woke.
What am I to do with my privilege as a white man and as a person on TV with an enormous platform, which, by the way, I benefit from the platform that you built primarily? What am I to do with that power, right? Am I to support the power structure that where injustice is ongoing, or should I speak truth to power using that privilege and that platform? When you say things like, Colin Kaepernick, who are you as a black man who unjustly, and now you're given this opportunity, who are you to ask questions about who the receivers are going to be, why it's last minute, while you can focus on the world we actually live in, where if you wear a Kunta Kinte shirt, the white billionaires aren't going to like it? I am going to talk about the world we ought to live in and bring pressure to bear so that sooner than later we do live in that world where so the hell what someone shows up with a Kunta Kinte shirt. The reason that's significant to people, the reason the white power structure doesn't like it, I understand the sensitivity of Colin Kaepernick. You ain't Kunta Kinte.
Yeah, but you're
Stop.
But
I do understand also that when that story was told in that miniseries on the Alex Haley book, people identified with a largely fictional character. This was what people went through.
Yeah, so why are they having these ultra-racialized conversations on what is supposed to be a sports network, not a political network? Who knows? But again, when you have sports analysts talking about politics, you get really stupid takes like this next take I'm going to show you from Marks Kellerman.
A few of the things he said when he talks about, like, Black Lives Matter, 93% of the protests are peaceful. The vast, overwhelming majority are peaceful. And by the way, the 7% that are not, they have a very broad definition of what's not quote-unquote peaceful. For example, if you block traffic or something like that, or if you respond to police provocation. And even then, a big percentage of that, that wasn't peaceful, is actually outside agitators, extremist right-wing agitators, posing as protesters in order to make the protests look bad. That's the first thing.
Yeah. So according to this guy, Marks Kellerman, right? The violent BLM protesters were actually right-wingers in disguise, right? In costume. That's some impressive blackface. I'm just saying, that is some very impressive blackface. If there were white people, okay, that were protesting during the BLM riots, okay, and they were rioting, they weren't right-wingers, they were left-wingers, right? They were Antifa, okay? But again, Marks Kellerman, who probably does know that, maybe he doesn't, who knows, but I'm just saying, this is what you get when you have sports analysts becoming political analysts on a sports network, right? You get stupid takes like that, and people wonder why, again, nobody watches ESPN anymore, why they're struggling, why they have to lay off employees is because of that, okay? That's why. It's not a sports network anymore. It's a political propaganda network, okay? More specifically, a liberal, progressive political propaganda network. So, quote, given the current environment, ESPN has deemed it necessary to identify some additional cost savings in the area of public-facing commentator salaries, and that process has begun, ESPN said in a statement to Front Office Sports. Quote, this exercise will include a small group of job cuts in the short term and an ongoing focus on managing costs when we negotiate individual contract renewals in the months ahead. This is an extremely challenging process involving individuals who have had tremendous impact on our company. These difficult decisions based more on overall efficiency than merit will help us meet our financial targets and ensure future growth, the statement continued. Yeah, so, I mean, again, when a company's trying to get more efficient, what do they get rid of? They get rid of the wokeness, right? Because wokeness is inefficient, okay? When you're having a whole bunch of political discussions on a sports network, I mean, that by definition is inefficient. You're supposed to be talking about sports, right? Analyzing sports, not politics. Do these firings mean a new direction for the network? I wouldn't hold my breath. You can be sure there will be some outcry. However, after the network recently signed Pat McAfee to a $85 million deal over 5 years, while Stephen A. Smith makes a reported $8 million per year. Well, again, Pat McAfee has proved that he can develop a large audience without a big network, right? Maybe Stephen A. Smith can do that, but I'm not sure if he's proven that the same way that Pat McAfee has. But hey, nobody should be surprised when the accusations of racism get thrown out there from people like Jemele Hill, who is a race hustler, right? She's going to say, well, it's racist, okay? They let go of Jalen Rose and all these other black folks, and, you know, they have Pat McAfee, right? He got paid $85 million. Somehow, some way, they're going to say that racism is involved here, okay? Some sort of bigotry. Who knows, right? But regardless, again, this is a get woke, go broke story, in my opinion. I think that ESPN not sticking to sports is the reason, or part of the reason, along with a bigger kind of macro environment in regards to people switching to streaming, just not consuming cable television as much. I think that those factors all together have contributed to the fall of this once great network. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.